guys, it's the last week until Christmas. Hope you've sorted all your stuff out. I've done all mine. I'm all sorted. All I need to do is wrap it up now. To be honest, Sarah's done most of mine. I just only really have to kind of worry about her stuff. So that's pretty good. Right, so there's a few things I want to show you with the car. Last night I actually updated the power box, which is the tuning box that goes on the car and gives it more power. So I'll probably do another video about the power box separately because it's quite a big topic. But anyway, last night I put on the latest firmware. This is something that the guy that made it, he's basically developing the software all the time. So he sent me like the latest version and it improves a few things. Like apparently the power box would be disconnecting after a few days if you don't cycle the power. You know, everything shows up on as if it's connected, but it's not actually sort of taking any action. So you probably find that your extra power is probably not there because the tuning box is not actually able to write the information into the ECU. So that's cool. There's some updates with the charging because on the power box you can actually change your charging rate. So you can actually set different levels of charge. Maximum being 32 amps at the 60 volt level, so you know the car's battery is effectively receiving 32 amps at 60 volts or 57 volts, whatever the maximum charge voltage is. So that's cool. So at mains voltage it only takes 10 amps. You know, there's no way of going any higher because the actual charger is built into the car. It's a bit like the e-bike charger that I've got actually, really. That's about sort of 2.5 kilowatts, and that's just like a server power supply that, you know, charges the bike battery. So yeah, that's cool. So I wanted to test that out. So I did a quick video last night of how I updated the power box, and I'll probably just insert that now. Right guys, so I'm just updating the firmware on the power box. So to update the firmware, because this is like Arduino based, you can connect directly to it. There's a USB port in the side, and I've obviously got this little, you've seen this before, this little Windows computer. And I've just basically installed the Arduino software, and also you need to install Xloader as well, because that's basically just like a hex file, which is effectively like a firmware file. So I've just updated this and already done it. This is just rebooted, so I'm just going to plug it back in the car and yeah, see what the difference is. I mean, I really like this because you can basically change all the software on here. So as things develop, you know, you can basically just change stuff on here. Also, this power box has actually got Bluetooth built in, as well as an RF module, so you can use these key fobs. It's actually got Bluetooth in there as well. So eventually I think what the plan is to have like a smartphone app, so you could effectively monitor charging via Bluetooth, which is just so cool. Anyway, let's pop out to the car. Right, so the car's on charge as normal, doors open. What I've done this morning also is I've put in these LED lights. So you might remember in the last video I was trying to work out how to put these in. These are the bulbs that have actually got the fan on the inside. I had to actually file a lot of the inside down of the... It's not really that much, it just kind of had like this lip basically on the inside of the light. So I had to file that down so that it would actually fit in there. Now, a couple of people have said there's going to be no ventilation in here because when you put these bulbs in the back of the light, they actually sort of seal. Kind of, you know, there is a little bit of it. Actually, there's a little hole in the back of this bracket. I should have filmed it really, which was covered up. So I've uncovered that to help. And I'm just going to test them. If they work, they work. If not, you know, if they fail after a while, then I'll just have to get some more or something like that. But I really like how these look. This is just like I've shown this before. It's just like the little Philips side light, but interestingly, now I've put these in and they're in exactly the right position, like as designed. The beam pattern is way better than my kind of bodge job from before. So let's show you. So now we're getting basically like a pretty nice line of a stream of light. I don't know what this thing's about at the end, just a little flick up, but I think it doesn't seem to do it on that side. Anyway, but it basically is a lot better. You're not getting these stray reflections down. I can actually stand here and look at the lights now, whereas before it was just, you know, it was even glaring me just standing here. So that proves that it must be a bit better. And then what I'll show you is main beam as well. Let's try and put the camera outside while I'm in here. So my main beam now is working as it should. It's actually flicking the light up. So you're now getting the bottom reflector showing, and then your light pattern is obviously looks like a face. Right, and the other thing I've done is stuck in LED lights in the number plate. They're weird little fiddly little holders. You just have to get a screwdriver and just hook them out, and then actually get the bulbs out. It's just like a little as well with a screwdriver, flat blade screwdriver. So yeah, first when I took them off before, I looked at it, I was thinking, how the hell do you get them out? Because they're almost like they're just breaking your hands if you pull them out. But just a little screwdriver. This reaches 100%. I think I've got a problem with my switch for my brake light. If anyone knows, not brake light, hand brake light. If anyone knows anything about that, let me know. So yeah, you're reaching 100%, and then what tends to happen is, I don't know if it kind of goes into like some sort of balancing mode or drops back, because you always end up on about 98% after, I don't know, 15 minutes of sitting here. Oh, it's nice and warm sitting on the old seat pad there. Right, so let's just turn the car off. What I want to do is, apparently when you put new firmware in, you're supposed to reprogram this. When you program this, or when you first get this box, it basically, you plugged into the ODB port in there, and then it comes up with like a sort of setup screen and it asks you what you want to do. Now you have this little key fob here, which I've mentioned before, which has ABCD on it, and you use this to actually access the interface on the box, which is pretty cool. It just minimises this, means you haven't got buttons on here. And anyway, so what Kenneth has said is basically you need to, after the firmware, you need to reprogram the car, like retune it in effect. So for that we have to go D on the button here, and then A, power tuning. So you've got these three settings for different tuning levels, and we're going to obviously go for C, max power tuning. Are you sure? Yes. Please wait a moment. So this effectively just reprograms the car. So that's done, and it says please turn off and on the ignition key. Let's turn that off. Right, so I've taken the key out. This is actually still showing like it's on at the moment. Might need to cycle the power on this. Just turn it off. It's got a little on and off switch on the side, which you're supposed to sort of turn it on and off. It doesn't draw much current. It's not very much, but if you left it for months and months, I think it probably would flatten the battery. So let's turn it back on. So you get this come up showing you your firmware, checking the Twizy model, connected to a Twizy 80, and then yeah, you're back in the game. These three modes here, Eco, Normal and Sport, just do what you'd expect. You push the A button on the controller and it will go to Eco mode. Push the B, it will go to Normal mode, and then obviously if you push the C, it will go to Sport mode. I normally put it around in Normal mode. If you go into Sport mode, you'll find that the amps go a little bit higher. I think the torque up here, Newton meters of torque, is a little bit more as well. I haven't really kept that firm an eye on it while I've been driving, to be honest, but it definitely feels more powerful on Sport, and as you'd expect. But you also get the little light up here saying stop, which can be ignored because it's just basically, it's when it's drawing about 450 amps I think up here, which is an insane amount of amps, but it's kind of normal for electric cars, I suppose. So yeah, so you stay at charge on there. So if you have a look through the menu on here, if you push D on this, you don't need to point this at this, by the way, it's just, I'm just doing it for the camera. And then you can go into like B, setup, battery info, battery health 100%, that's nice to know, battery voltage 57. This updates as you go, so if you leave the power box in this screen as you're accelerating, you see this voltage drop, you know, obviously a little bit as your amps, you know, increase. So it's quite interesting. I'd actually quite like to see the voltage on a separate screen, voltage, amps and sort of kilowatts. That'd be quite nice. Battery temperature 4 degrees, and then exit. Oh, I could have gone to the next screen on there. It just shows you like motor temperature and setup. So your charging setup here, you can see if you go into this, stop charging at, that's setting your charging, you know, your charging level max charge, so you don't have to have it going to 100%. I don't think there's a lot of point just, you know, reducing how much percentage of charge that you put in the car as a maximum, because the BMS already limits the individual cell voltage to about 4.06, I believe. So, you know, it's doing the common kind of look after your batteries type system, which is good to know. I don't know what it actually cuts out at the bottom level, but it will be well before 3 volts, I should imagine. And then your charging level, this is the thing I was talking about. You can actually set it here, so 7's the highest one, 2100. You can knock it back to you know, 6. I think these 6 and 7 are the same. Actually, I think there's something there, anomaly there, but 5 goes to 1750. So, you know, you can drop it right back down to, you know, like whatever your power supply can deal with. If you're thinking of charging on like a solar system or something like that, I mean, it's going to be doing it really slowly if you're charging at that level. But maybe overnight you could have it charging slowly. I don't know what the benefits of that would be. Maybe, yeah, if you've got like a lower powered solar powered system like I've got, where you've got, you know, some batteries stored some energy through the day, you could leave the car on overnight for like 4 or 5 hours, maybe, you know, maybe even longer, and then you wouldn't have to have such a meaty inverter to actually, or battery bank to supply the current for that amount of time, and wiring as well. So that's my thought. Maybe you could slow charge it overnight from energy that you've got in from the sun, but not have to have loads of panels on your house. I mean, I will be doing that eventually, but anyway, that's something I'm going to probably play with at another point. But this now remembers this level. I think before it didn't remember this level. I don't even know if this menu option was actually available before. I'll just give it a test just to see. The other thing he was saying is that the motor temperature offset, you might need to fiddle with that, because if we go to our main screen, let's get back out to the main screen and look at motor temperature. See, motor temperature is 10 degrees, batteries are 4. I'm not sure what the ambient temperature is, but I should imagine it's probably somewhere between these two. I mean, last night the outdoor temperature was about 8 degrees Celsius, and the motor temperature was saying about 15. So I thought, that doesn't really sound right. It might need to be reduced a bit, you know, to get it right. But there is an offset you can put in. So apparently the motor temperature isn't quite as accurate as it could be. I mean, it's better that it's that way around than the other way around, because it will mean that this power box will cut off your power a little bit earlier if this goes up to about 100 degrees. The motor itself, I believe, is good for about 160 or 170 degrees, but this power box actually limits it at 100 degrees just to be on the safe side. So we were probably not going to run into that. I've had it roll back once, where it just basically moves. It goes from sport to normal. If you're in normal, I suppose it goes to eco, but it just reduces the power level available if the temperature goes up too high, which I don't even know if the ECU would. Well, the ECU probably doesn't allow that much power anyway to even heat the motor up. But so one final thing I can show you, I've got my heated seat thing plugged into here. This is a 12 volt jack. There you go. And one final thing I'll show you is this. And in here we've got, this is a little Enzmann battery checker. I like Enzmann stuff actually. We used to distribute some of their bits, but it's good quality. So yeah, you just plug this into the cigarette lighter plug, or the accessory jack as it's called now, and then it will light up and tell you the voltage. Now, interestingly, if you put this in here now and the car's off, this reminds me of my Twingo. I used to have a Twingo Renault Sport, and all the bits and pieces all the same. Right, let's put that in there. So it's a bit annoying with this power box up here, so you can see it. So what happens if you turn the ignition on once, you'll very briefly see the voltage of the battery before the charging starts from the main battery into the, because it's got a charger inside it that charges the 12 volt battery. The 12 volt battery is just like a lead acid battery, but there's been a lot of problems reported of these 12 volt batteries. They're little motorcycle 12 volt batteries, and they go wrong, and I don't think anyone really has worked out why, but it's is it been overcharged or what? So anyway, I've got this little thing, but you can't obviously see the voltage until you turn the ignition on because this socket is not live. But if you flick the ignition once, you'll see the voltage of the battery very quickly, and then the charger cuts in. So, right, turn it on, 12.9, and then you'll see it rise up. So I've got this just so I can keep an eye on the voltage of the battery, because one of the weaknesses with this car is it relies on this 12-volt battery to actually trigger relays inside the car to actually turn on the main power system. So if your 12-volt battery goes flat, it's just like any other car, it won't start, which is quite surprising. So when I found this out, I thought, great, this is annoying. I don't want that to ever happen, because, you know, I mean, you can jump start it, but the problem is you've got to take bits to the front of the car off to actually get to the battery. So I got this little thing just to sort of use periodically to see what you know, what the voltages are, and just, you know, to indicate if any problems are. People have been saying that the batteries, some certain Twizys have actually had batteries expand, and if you look on EV Owners Forum, there's loads of people with batteries that have expanded and they couldn't get them out of the hole, and nightmare stuff. I think in the earlier ones, 2012 models, they had a system where the charger for basically when the car's on charge, it charged the 12-volt battery as well. So it meant if you're driving out and about, you're using the 12-volt battery for the heater, for the lights. So there's a potential problem there that you could run that battery out. But on the later models, it doesn't do that. It actually charges, as you can see here, it's charging right now. I mean, like all these things, you know, they're designed not to fail too much, but it's one of those things that could happen. Like with the bike, you just don't want to be stuck somewhere with a, you know, problem, because it's just not good. Anyway, I'm going to give this a little go and just see that, just make sure that this firmware is working the same way as it was before, and yeah, I'll take you with me. Right, here we go, guys. So it feels the same as it did really. Normal mode, quite a nice bit of torque there. It sort of feels roughly the same really. Slow down a little bit, it's a 30. Get a bit carried away. So I'll just head up here. It's quite a nice little, it's a lovely day today. Quite a nice little area. It's been so miserable, the weather. It was absolutely raining yesterday, terrible. It did pop out, and it wasn't really, there's no problem in this at all. Nothing got wet. But, you do get a little bit of water come through down here on this side of it. Pops in a little bit, but it's nothing to worry about. Wet roads as well, and it's quite cold as well, so you never know, there might be a bit of ice about. Great thing about these little cars is they feel like they're actually going a lot quicker than they are, and that is a real eye-opener, because if you're used to driving big cars around and you just get complacent, I think it's just really refreshing to get in one of these and realise actually how fast you are going. It's the same with the bike really. If you don't sort of do any of these kind of, you know, grassroots transportation things, then you don't really know. Typical, it's going to be a car in front of me now, isn't it? So it's possible to spin the back wheels when it's a bit slippery like this. It's quite easy to do it, but not really. It won't really pull a wheel spin if you just floor it, mainly because the torque is under control. Anyway, this is a nice bit of road up here. Really like this. these lights perform like at night, hopefully I won't get flashed all the time like I was doing before. Right, so let's stick this in. Let's stick it in sport mode. You probably won't notice a lot of difference really, because it's mainly the torque that changes. But I might go this way actually. I've been this way for a while. A little bit of a wheel spin there. See, there's the stoplight coming on because you're pulling about 400 something amps. So you do notice it a little bit. Nice bit of acceleration. It does pull away. It's a 0 to 30 car, this one, really. It just is really, really good for having a little blast on. But I mean, you can feel the road. The chassis, the way the chassis is, you know, developed by Renault Sport is just so good. Just can't wait to get this thing out in the old in the dry. I think it'd be easy to come unstuck in this little car as well if you went too mad. Whenever I see that stoplight on, I'm always inclined to just pull off the throttle, but they assure me that the guy that designed this assured me that it's not, you know, it's not really a problem. The only thing I probably need to do really is to change the gearbox oil, because apparently you should put better oil in. Let's try a little braking test. It does, if you stamp on it, it does brake. It's possible to lock it up as well. I think the brakes are definitely working anyway, which is good. I think I want to turn round. Done vegan. Probably change the map so that it would give you a bit of more brutal startup. I feel like it needs to be a little bit more less slow in the sport mode. I might give him a shout and see what you can do about that. I'd quite like to just have it at the beginning, you know. It does ramp up to about 400 and over 400 amps when you pull away anyway, so don't know. Regen definitely helps that braking. You just got to be careful you don't overdo it on the regen braking, because you can easily lock the back wheel up if you put too much force on that back wheel. If you're sort of going around a corner and you brake, you're applying more, you're almost like magnifying what you're putting onto the brake pedal. I don't know if it's progressive regen on this actually. That is quite an interesting point. I do like this area. move. Not a wise move on a blind summit. Oh my god. What on earth. Some people have got an absolute death wish. The worst thing about it is if that person was coming towards me, just got no idea. Just can't believe the risks people take. I mean, I'm no saint, but I mean that's just bonkers. They're all going for it here. You want a little wheel spin? It's possible to do it. It's like a blooming racing driver, this car in front. Trying to be. Everybody's in a rush. Christmas. Bit of glare here, sorry guys. Don't really see a lot, I can't really see a lot either. Great acceleration. Just needs a cup holder. Stick a coffee in here. Oh yeah, can I get a medium Americano soy milk please? That's it, yeah. This is the fun bit. Hello mate, you alright? £3.5 altogether please. Cheers dude. Thanks a lot.
Lovely stuff, thank you.
Won't see one of these very often. No one's mad enough.
Come on last time, we'll tell everyone about it. Everyone's like, what is it? We don't.
Yeah, it's electric.
Yeah. There you go, mate.
Only problem is hasn't got any cup holders. There's a little seat in the back, yeah, as well.
Have a good day, mate.
Nice one, mate. Catch you later. And that is the response you get right there. Oh, I'll just drip coffee on me. Right, back at home now, guys. 60% battery. I was hooning it for the last bit. I was doing some pretty heavy driving, but why not? It just needs to be a bit drier. Once it gets a bit drier, just can't wait. Also, the battery temperature, there as well, 16 degrees. You know, these batteries, when they're low temperature, they don't give out as much power. You know, expect the range to increase, and also the power should increase as well. In the summer when the battery's a bit warmer. If I had a nice warm garage, it'd be quite good, because you could keep it in the garage and then wheel it out, and the temperature of the car would be, you know, in the right range for maximum performance. But I mean, driving this around in this temperature, it's absolutely fine. I mean, as I said before, no wind comes in,
really. The only thing I get a little bit chilly. I've just got these silly trainers on, so you know, put something a bit more substantial on your feet. My feet are getting a little bit cold, but you know, the heat pad down there, you know, hardly taking any power and keeping my bum nice and warm. It's like really nice at the moment. It's like, what, super good. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the headlights are like later on. Really excited to try that actually. One thing about these is the fans, because they're inside the actual headlight, whether that's a good thing or bad thing, we've talked about that, but actually they're not as noisy. You know, you can hardly hear them. You might be able to hear it in the camera better than I can hear it with my hearing, but actually nowhere near as noisy as the other ones. Someone sent a link about the ones they recommend, which were about 70 quid. They look good and they haven't got fans, which is quite a good thing, because you know, a fan can easily fail, you know, and then you could end up with a headlight out. But
right guys, so I've just come down the road. It's way better. They're way better than before. The only thing is the main beam seems to be like, it's just really high, so like it's up there somewhere. Can you see that? So I mean, it needs to just almost like be a bit lower, but this is probably the best it's going to get with these lights. But that main beam is just way up there, so I mean that's not going to pass an MOT or anything. But I'm happy with that. I haven't been flashed, I've only seen a few cars, but I'm happy with that. I think it's not too bad really. You can hear the fans a little bit. I mean, the brightness of these lights on the dipped is actually fantastic, but it's just this main beam that's bugging me. But it is what it is, you know. They're only sort of cheap Chinese bulbs. It's really icy tonight.